Hello everyone, this is Gio from gamesibeat.com, here to bring you a review of Granblue Fantasy Versus on PlayStation 4. For the purpose of getting this review out sooner than later, I'm using the Japanese version of the game. Granblue Fantasy Versus is a fighting game made by Arc System Works. It's based on a mobile and browser Japanese RPG called Granblue Fantasy, developed by Cygames. The real magic of Granblue Fantasy RPG comes from the tried and true combination of composer Nobuo Uematsu and art director Hideo Minaba. Both of these icons worked on titles Final Fantasy V, VI, and IX, arguably two of my favorite Final Fantasy games of all time. That look and feel carries over to Granblue Fantasy Versus perfectly. Granblue Fantasy Versus is a fighting game aimed at non-fighting game players as well as veterans. The main fanbase of Granblue Fantasy are RPG players. So there is an RPG mode and several features added to the game to make it both entertaining and easy for players to pick the game up and play quickly. Other than that, this is your typical fast-paced anime fighting game. The graphics in this game are incredibly breathtaking. The game is a 2.5D fighting game. That means that many models have the depth of 3D, but you never leave the 2D plane. The art direction is very similar to Dragon Ball FighterZ, another great looking fighting game from Arc System Works. The art direction is taken directly from the Granblue Fantasy RPG. However, it's even more breathtaking because it's an ultra high definition. Everything from the gameplay graphics, animated scenes, and the UI design are top notch. I find myself in awe of the quality and consistency of the art. Now here is the surprising part of the game for me. While I'm impressed at the quality of the art, I'm even more impressed with the soundtrack of this game. I find myself zoning out from the actual gameplay to listen and focus on the music at times. This rarely ever happens to me with any video game except for older RPGs. While I have always viewed the Tekken franchise as having the best soundtracks of any fighting game, I have to set Granblue Fantasy Versus up to that level as well. The quality of this soundtrack definitely adds more value to the premium version of this game, which includes a music CD. The playability is front and center in this game. The moment I picked this game up, I could see that it was designed with the PS4 controller in mind. A large percentage of competitive fighting game players use arcade sticks, because several games just work better with them. However, this game probably works better on a controller. The control scheme kind of reminds me of Marvel vs. Capcom 3. You have light, medium, heavy, and unique attack buttons, which are your normal attacks. The R1 and R2 buttons are skill and guard buttons. You can grab with light and unique, and overhead with medium and heavy. You can chain normals into auto combos. Special moves can be done in two ways. There is a simple way for beginner. You can just use the skill button in conjunction with the direction on your D-pad. This will give you access to the character's special attacks. However, your cooldown is higher. You can input the special attacks using the regular attack buttons and movements, similar like Street Fighter, quarter circle forward, and dragon punch. Then you have skybound and super skybound arts. These are essentially your super moves. These can be input with either one quarter circle forward with the skill button, or two quarter circle forward motions with heavy attack. The regular version requires 100% skybound gauge, and the super version requires 100% skybound gauge and 30% or less HP. I won't go into depth on the more advanced features, but they include instant blocking, throw breaks, and recovery options. Overall, the playstyle options are diverse and flexible, and suit beginner and pro alike. The entertainment value of this game lies in its various modes. All type of gamers can find their niche within this game. The RPG mode is a beat-em-up style game with some interesting RPG features. You play through a campaign mostly using Gran and Catalina. I'm not going to get into the specifics of the plot because I can't read Japanese, but it's your basic good versus evil story. You play through different stages which are represented on a minimap. Each stage has different levels which allow you to gain currency and items. The stages build up to boss fights and bonus stages where you can play different characters. Another cool thing is that RPG mode supports co-op. You can equip and level up different items and skills which help you during your boss fights. Weapons also have the elemental properties as well as quality properties, which make them stronger versus different enemies. Overall, I found this mode enjoyable and was especially amused by the difficulty of the final boss. You also have your standard local versus arcade, training, and tutorial mode. The versus and arcade mode are pretty standard. You have a lot in common with other modern fighting games. The training mode has a full suite of options to help you train very specific scenarios. You can also quickly change between characters, which is really convenient. The tutorial mode is packed with many useful missions. You can learn with how to defend, attack, counterattack, cross up, mix up, throw break, and much more. The online play takes what other modern fighting games have and expands it. For example, the coolest change I see is that you can choose how you wait for matches. You're not forced into the basic menu or training mode. I can't accurately comment on the netcode situation because I'm playing people in Asia and Europe since the game isn't released in America yet. However, I was able to have some pretty decent matches with minimal lag and no major lag spikes. The Japanese version allows you to switch regions, which is also cool. There is also a really pretty ranking UI built into the game as well. The replay value of Granblue Fantasy Versus depends on a few things. From what I can see, there is an extra mission section for the RPG mode that is not directly connected to the main storyline in the UI. This is most likely how the game will keep RPG fans coming back. As for the fighting game community, it relies purely on how accessible and responsive the net play is. Some promising things I see here are there is a quick rematch option which allows for several rematches. That's something some fighting game fans are missing and sorely needed. If the game keeps adding RPG missions and keeps a strong netplay feature, this game will have a high replay value. In conclusion, Granblue Fantasy Versus is a great addition to the albeit somewhat saturated fighting game market. There has always been an execution barrier of entry for many anime fighters, but games like Dragon Ball FighterZ and now Granblue Fantasy Versus are doing something about it. It's a fighting game with a broad appeal to both RPG and fighting game fans. The graphics and music are superb and make it enjoyable to just have the game turned on. I am fully looking forward to seeing how this game is received in the American market, and I hope people play. I can fully recommend this title to anyone interested in the game, beginner and pro alike. Hello everyone, do you think Granblue Fantasy Versus bridges the gaps for beginners when it comes to fighting games? Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you all next time.